Matter of fact, cortisol will free up a lot of glucose in your blood plasma and in your system. So you have a lot of sugar to respond to things like stress. You need sugar, you need fuel. If you're going to get through trauma and hard times and survive, you need to have sugar. So cortisol helps to regulate glucose metabolism, among other things. The third set of hormones that come from the adrenal cortex are androgens. These are known as adrenal androgens. These are weak sex hormones, things like DHEA, and they supplement the androgens that are made by the ovaries and the testes, so the gonads. So we've got mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and androgens. Your adrenal cortex is busy. It's making all these specialized different types of hormones that regulate your salt and water balance in your body, that regulate your sugar levels in your body in terms of stress especially. Have you heard of cortisol being a stress hormone? Okay, and this is why when you have a spike in stress over time, your adrenal cortex will start getting stimulated to pump out lots of cortisol. We can detect it in the first 20 minutes. Cortisol levels will go up. Cortisol helps your body mediate and get through the stress and have enough fuel to actually power through and do what you need to do. Now over time, this is very, very bad. And cortisol has a lot of negative effects on a lot of body tissues and cells, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later in the course too. All right, so cortisol stimulates protein degradation. Protein's getting broken down, okay? So cortisol, or I put here in parentheses, it's the same thing, hydrocortisone. Have you ever taken hydrocortisone?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, as a pill or as a topical. It's basically, yep, skinned a lot of times for rashes, eczema. I had eczema. I had to use this all growing up. Hydrocortisone all over my arms and my legs. Hydrocortisone topically, and then also internally when it's in the bloodstream, has a lot of different effects. Basically, it's cortisol. Okay, it's a derivative of cortisol. It stimulates protein degradation, the breakdown of proteins into monomers. Okay. It stimulates gluconeogenesis and inhibits glucose utilization. So ultimately, those two things raise blood sugar levels. Now the lab packets I already put together, they're at my office outside my door if you want to grab one, or they're also online, you can read it online. I bring them to lab, but I feel like it's useful to read through the background material before you actually come to lab. All of this will totally superimpose over the pancreas video lecture capture and some of this stuff as well too. So as you're reading it, it kind of puts everything together a little bit more. So gluconeogenesis, if we take that word apart, that means the birth of new glucose. Yes? The production or birth of new glucose. Stimulating fats and amino acids to get converted by cells into sugar. It's going, hey, we don't, okay, break those amino acids down, break those fatty acids down, we need more sugar. Convert them into sugar. And actually, glycogen does the same thing. The fasting hormone, if you don't have enough sugar, you haven't eaten, glycogen will tell your cells to do exactly that. Make sugar. Turn those fats into sugar. Turn the protein into sugar because we need glucose. Brain needs glucose. So gluconeogenesis is stimulated and inhibiting the cells from using glucose so that they will spit glucose out into the blood. That will all raise blood sugar levels. It also stimulates something called lipolysis. Lysis of lipo. Fat breakdown, right? Lysing fat. So lysing triglycerides into fatty acids. So the free fatty acids now can circulate throughout the blood and they can be used as a substrate fuel to break it down, okay? So breakdown of fats in adipose, creation of new sugar, all of these are going to serve to raise blood sugar levels, okay? So cortisol is good. It's good. It's normal, okay? When you're dealing with stress and you're dealing with stuff and you're fasting and you're running and you're crazy, that describes like 80% of my working hours. My cortisol levels are up, and so are my epinephrine and my norepinephrine. And in the time, it's allowing my body to have enough sugar to keep those sugar levels up so I don't crash and burn, right? Now notice, over time though, that's where these become a problem. I think the problem is when there's this out of whack, out of balance, too long, prolonged period of time, then it starts to have negative effects and cause deterioration of other tissues and parts of the body, and we'll talk more about that. But exogenous glucocorticoids, cortisol is a glucocorticoid because it regulates sugar levels. Exogenous means you're taking it from outside the body, whether you're rubbing it on or ingesting it or getting it injected. It's exogenous, it's coming from outside of you. It's used medically to suppress the immune system and also inhibit inflammation and rashes and irritation, okay? So if you inject it or use it in higher doses, it actually stops your immune system. It shuts down your white blood cells and your antibody production and specific white blood cell processes and goes, hold up, we don't need all that. Calm all that immune reaction down. This is used for things like organ transplantation. If you're going to transplant an organ in somebody, you can't just match them, blood type them, do all that. You actually have to treat them with an immunosuppressive drug. And that immunosuppressive drug is something like hydrocortisone. It's a cortisol-based derivative that you give at a super physiological, that means above the normal level that we see, dose. And that tells our immune system to quiet down, to shut up, and to not do anything. Shut up immune system so you don't attack that brand new organ, the brand new pancreas or the lung or the heart or the whatever the individual that was the recipient of. So that could tell you right there. If we use it medically, we've capitalized on its physiological effects of what cortisol does. We use it to suppress the immune system in an organ transplantation. What do you think with high stress and high cortisol is going to have over time, months to years to decades on your body? You're going to get sick, right? You're going to have immune dysfunction. You're going to have all kinds of other problems that lead to major ailments in health. I save that for the end of the course, but I just give you a little introduction to it now because it does link into this, the adrenal glands and the endocrine system, okay? But it has a lot of negative side effects. So over time, these individuals have a lot of side effects. It starts to break down body tissues, start to accumulate fat in certain areas, get very thin in other areas. It causes striae oftentimes with high doses, or weight gain where you get stretch marks. They're almost like very extra exaggerated stretch marks. Breaking down of proteins, so certain tissues really just start to atrophy and fall apart over time. Okay, questions on that? Yes, Lauren.
So on the last slide, it just said that where it just stops breaking down the glucose so that it stays in your blood. And you
Yeah. It's inhibiting glucose utilization, so telling the cells, try not to use glucose, okay? Use fats. Convert all these other things to glucose because we need to get the glucose to the brain and the spinal cord.
Oh, okay.
So the other tissues go, okay, well, we can function on amino acids and ketones and fatty acids. So the production of new sugar, it's all to keep glucose levels up. Now, it's not to say your tissues are not still using glucose. Some of your tissues will preferentially use glucose, like the brain. So it's just making sure that those levels don't drop, that they're high enough, especially for things like your muscles and your brain, and getting through high stress activities and stuff, right? In certain circumstances, you have to make sure that it's high. This is a lot of stuff. I don't expect you to get all this. What I wanted to show is the adrenal cortex has these zones, these very specialized cells that are made and function to make these specific hormones. The mineralocorticoids, the glucocorticoids, and the sex steroids like dihydroepiandrosterone, which is DHEA. It's a type of androgen. These supplement the effects of the gonads, okay? But the ones we really spent time talking about more here are things like cortisol or corticosteroid. These are the final products in the pathway coming from cholesterol, and the mineralocorticoids like aldosterone. And this regulates water and salt balance in the kidneys, okay? And helps you in regulation of salt and water in your body. So those are sort of two major things, and they have major hormonal effects on the body. And DHEA has additional effects during puberty and sexual development because it's a supplementing androgen. It aids your gonads. So that was all the adrenal cortex. Yes? Oh, okay. 15 minutes. Yes, it's perfect. Okay, so we'll stop right there. This is getting into more of the stress response in the adrenal medulla. If you haven't already, now everybody has power. We're back and up and running. Make sure you watch the lecture capture of the first part of the endocrine system so that all this will start coming together and make sense. All right. All right, so let's go over the test. So this is not going to be recorded.